Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I've got for you today a video I've worked very hard on. It's my top 100 horror movies of all time. This was an incredibly difficult list, it goes without saying. It's obviously completely subjective. These are my favorites, so there's no right and wrong answer for anybody except me, but let me know your favorites in the comments. Make sure you subscribe for more horror content just like this. All right, let's get on to the video. Number 100 is It, 2017. As disappointing as Chapter 2 was, Andy Muschietti's original It is still a great time. It's nostalgic and nightmarish, and of course has Bill Skarsgård's iconic Pennywise, and in my opinion, he absolutely nailed the role. Number 99, Christine. It's a story about obsession, adolescence, and possession. John Carpenter's adaptation of Stephen King's Christine is one of the most fun horror movies the director has made. Number 98, Blood and Black Lace. Mario Bava's iconic classic giallo pretty much set the visual template for the entire subgenre. Some of the most impressive use of color you will ever see in a giallo, but Bava's movies don't quite click with me as much as some Argento movies you'll see later on the list. Number 97, Pearl, one of the newer entries on the list, but I love Ty West's twisted character study. Mia Goth delivers an excellent performance, and that iconic monologue is one for the ages, followed by that incredibly creepy oneer, which was to me the cherry on top of an already fantastic movie. 96, The Conjuring. James Wan seemingly revitalized modern supernatural horror. Unfortunately, this movie gets downplayed a little bit nowadays because the rest of the franchise doesn't really live up to this at all. But what James Wan does here with the characters of Ed and Lorraine Warren is great, and it truly is the most seminal modern supernatural horror movie. Number 95, Dr. Sleep. Mike Flanagan's sequel to The Shining is absolutely fantastic. Ewan McGregor delivers a great performance here as Danny Torrance, and I loved Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the Hat. 94, The Wolfman from 1941. One of my favorites of the early classic Universal monster movies. Lon Chaney Jr.'s excellent performance as a doomed man cursed to kill, plus the absolutely brilliant gothic atmosphere of this movie makes it one of the all-time classics. 93, A Quiet Place. This film really stood out to me the first time I watched it. It was John Krasinski's directorial debut. It's an absolute masterclass in tension and visual storytelling, and I also think Krasinski does a great job with world building here, even though this movie is so small. It's a really tight, fast-paced movie, and I was absolutely caught up in the family drama as well. 92, The Lost Boys. Joel Schumacher's Santa Cruz classic still remains one of the most fun 80s horror movies around. It's slick, stylish, endlessly rewatchable, and just a flat-out joy. 91, Dracula from 1931. There are very few horror movies that are as iconic as Bela Lugosi's first Dracula. The accent, the stare, the poise, it absolutely defined Dracula and all of Dracula visual imagery for generations. It's a slower burn movie for sure, but it's still one of my favorite versions of the Dracula character, and it basically birthed the Universal monster. Number 90, Prince of Darkness from 1987. This was actually a recent watch for me, but I just absolutely loved what John Carpenter does here. He fuses theology, physics, and the apocalypse into a cerebral nightmare. The movie's tense, it's got some good characters, and there are also some incredibly disturbing moments. Number 89, Get Out from 2017. Jordan Peele's directorial debut created a modern horror classic. I mean, the film won an Oscar for Best Screenplay. It's an incredibly smart movie with hilarious moments that break up the tension very nicely. So as the years go on, maybe it'll continue to climb. 8, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street from 2007. Directed by Tim Burton, his full-fledged musical is one of his best gothic horror films as well. I'm actually a big fan of musicals, and I'm a big fan of Tim Burton, so I've really always enjoyed this movie. Definitely an unconventional pick for a list like this, but hey, you want my opinion? I really love this movie. And speaking of movies I unabashedly love, 87 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I mean, just look at this poster. It looks like a band poster. And that's really what this movie is. It's just a complete 180 on what the original was, delivering a self-aware sequel that's hilarious at times, brutal, gory, but it still has that patented Tobe Hooper chaos that I really love about the original film. 86. Black Sunday. This is my personal favorite Mario Bava film. It's absolutely dripping with atmosphere, and it's genuinely creepy. 85, Repulsion. 1965. Roman Polanski's psychological masterpiece traps us in the mind of a woman unraveling. Catherine Deneuve's descent into madness is intimate and horrifying, and every single scene just gets more and more intense. 84, Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust from 2000. Bloodlust is an excellent mix of horror and sci-fi. It takes everything from the original film and does it even better, with a story that features characters you actually care about. I'm a sucker for gothic horror, as you can see on my list, and this is one of the most wonderfully gothic films of all time. 83, Army of Darkness from 1992. The finale of Sam Raimi's Evil Dead trilogy definitely embraces comedy and fantasy more so than horror, but it's still got Ash, it's still got a lot of cool moments. And how can you beat a guy wielding a chainsaw arm against armies of skeletons? 82, The Birds from 1963. One of only a few Alfred Hitchcock movies that I think fully dives into horror rather than just being a thriller. And in traditional Hitchcock style, this is a slow, methodical film that continues to build your curiosity until it unleashes its chaos. It's suspenseful and unnerving, but when the birds attack, it is absolutely riveting. 81, Child's Play from 1988. I ranked all the Child's Play movies last year, and I'm a big fan of Chucky, and Brad Dourif's original performance here is awesome. Mixed with Tom Holland's direction, who's one of the more underrated horror directors of all time, you combine those things and you've got a great horror classic that's almost as hilarious as it is terrifying. Number 80, Reanimator from 1985. This demented Lovecraftian riff on Frankenstein is grotesque, but also hilarious, continuing with the theme of very fun horror movies. If you can handle the gore, Reanimator is up there amongst the most entertaining watches on this list. Number 79, Videodrome from 1983, directed by David Cronenberg. One of Cronenberg's very best body horror films, and a movie that feels even more relevant in the digital age. Number 78, Child's Play 2 from 1990. Personally, I like this film a little bit better than Child's Play. They're both pretty close here on my list. Child's Play 2 just doubles down on the tension and the dark humor. The set design is fantastic, including that final set piece in the toy factory. It's one of my favorite slasher sequels, and one that I think absolutely takes the franchise to another level. Number 77, Opera from 1987, the first Dario Argento film on my list, and one of his great later Giallo films. It's a dark movie with some seriously brutal traps, and it of course has Argento's signature unrelenting tension. Number 76, The Curse of Frankenstein from 1957. This was Hammer's rebirth of Frankenstein and the first Frankenstein film with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. Peter Cushing is an amazing Victor Frankenstein, and Christopher Lee is really underrated as the monster. Even though the monster here looks nothing like the classic version, this is still one of the best versions of the Frankenstein story, and to me, easily one of the most underrated classic monster movies of all time. 75, The Invisible Man from 1933. Just an incredibly impressive film from every technical aspect. I watched this film for the first time in film school, and I was blown away by the special effects, especially for 33. Claude Rains plays the Invisible Man so well, and his descent into madness is absolutely fantastic. Couple that with James Whale's iconic direction, and it remains not just a film you can respect, but one that's absolutely fantastic. Number 74, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage from 1970. Dario Argento's debut laid the foundation for his Italian horror style. It's a showcase for everything that made Argento great. Vibrant, colorful horror with dark, complex characters. 73, Shaun of the Dead from 2004. A lot of you might think this is a little low on the list. I still do really enjoy this movie. Comedy is definitely one of my least favorite genres, but this film absolutely transcends. Edgar Wright's humor is always great for me, and this is one of his smartest and best written films. 72, Poltergeist from 1982. One of the most iconic and beloved haunted house movies ever. Got the combination of Steven Spielberg's script and producing with Tobe Hooper's direction, even though it's often rumored that Spielberg directed quite a bit of this film, merging with genuinely good characters and a warm family drama. It's kind of the seminal 80s big budget horror film, and it's got some genuinely great horror, especially for a movie that's often considered a little bit more of a family horror film. 71, The Evil Dead from 1981. I love low-budget horror, and I love Sam Raimi, and so the first time watching this film was absolutely a revelation. And even though The Evil Dead does have humor, I'd still love this film in particular for how violent and bloody and gory it is. It's a classic haunted cabin story, and as a fan of the franchise, I always go back to this one and really enjoy it. Number 70, Train to Busan from 2016. One of the great horror films of the last decade. An absolutely thrilling, fast-paced South Korean zombie movie with genuinely good characters and actual tense drama in the film. Number 69, The Others from 2001. Such a great atmospheric horror film. There aren't enough great haunted house films, and The Others perfectly combines gothic horror and psychological horror with a genuinely surprising good twist. Number 68, Phantom of the Paradise from 1974. This is just such a fun movie. It's Brian De Palma's rock opera, something that feels so classically 70s, but still remains one of my favorite satires of the horror and music genres. Number 67, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. This has always been my favorite Friday the 13th film. It's the most self-aware, and to me that makes it the most entertaining. As much as I like some of the other films in the franchise, this is the one I just go back to the most. And everything's just tongue-in-cheek, but in a fun, good way, not in an over-the-top way. Good amount of camp here, which is always impressive to do in a horror movie. Number 66, Night of the Living Dead from 1968. George Romero's original zombie classic redefined the zombie genre forever, shooting on a shoestring budget, but with actually sharp political commentary. Number 65, Let the Right One In from 2008. A vampire story that focuses on character and explores the topics of loneliness, love, and darkness. It's a movie about the search for connection, although I think a little less about this one when I specifically think about horror tropes. Still though, it's a fantastic movie, had to be on the list. Number 64, The Return of the Living Dead from 1985. This is just a chaotic, fun, goofy movie. So self-aware, so absurd, and I absolutely love it. Some great practical effects here. And just looking at the poster and seeing the punk rock zombies, you know exactly what you're in for. Number Number 63, Sinners from 2025. As you can probably tell with this list, I have a really hard time giving newer films a spot on my horror rankings. But I don't know, man. Just seeing Sinners for the first time this year, I had so much fun with it. It was such a great time, mixed with fantastic acting and just an awesome spin on the vampire genre. It's still one of my favorite movies of 2025 as of the recording of this video. Maybe it's a little inflated, maybe it's a little deflated. We'll see in a couple of years. Number 62, 28 Days Later from 2002. The zombie subgenre has had a lot of ebbs and flows over the years, and in the early 2000s, it was absolutely resurrected by Danny Boyle's gritty, realistic take on zombies. The DV visuals, the music, Cillian Murphy's performance, it all makes for one of the best zombie films of all time, and one that I'm glad is getting revisited with sequels over 20 years later. Number 61, The Rocky Horror Picture Show from 1975. Yes, this is another one that's mostly horror because of its gothic tropes, but this is just one of those movies that makes you love watching film. It's absolute perfect camp, and this movie makes me laugh. It has fantastic music, and it is always fun going and seeing it at midnight screenings, and a movie that every single time it's playing in a theater near me, I have to go see it. Number 60, Santa Sangre from 1989. This Alejandro Jodorowsky surreal slasher is absolutely art house madness. It's a fever dream, as most Jodorowsky films kind of are, focusing on complex characters dealing with repression and trauma. Absolutely unique in its visuals. It's certainly a unique film, and one that definitely sticks with you when the credits roll. Number 59, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors from 1987. To me, easily one of the greatest slasher sequels of all time. It takes everything from the original and ramps it up. The kills are so iconic, but it really takes Freddy Krueger to that next level. Easily the most imaginative Nightmare sequel, and if you're interested in practical effects associated with horror films, this movie is packed with some of the greatest practical effects you'll ever see. Number 58, Carrie from 1976. This is often considered Brian De Palma's masterpiece. It's one of the most iconic horror films of all time. Of course, Sissy Spacek's performance as Carrie really elicits all the emotions Stephen King originally intended. The prom scene is one of the great scenes in horror history. Such an iconic movie, and easily one of the great horror films of all time. Number 57, Fright Night from 1985. This was also a recent watch for me, and I just fell in love with it immediately. It's got all the great vibes from 80s horror, with a fun plot and really fun characters, a nice spin on the vampire genre. Chris Sarandon's vampire is very, very different from somebody like Dracula, but he still invokes the same energy, which is a cool twist on the traditional tropes. It also has some fantastic practical effects depths for some of the vampires. Number 56, Brain Dead or Dead Alive from 1992. The difficult to find Peter Jackson film that is absolutely one of the goriest movies you will ever see, but gory in a way that's frankly hilarious. It's one of those movies that you watch and you go, God, I can't believe somebody came up with this. Number 55, Trick or Treat from 2007. This is the perfect Halloween movie, and I'm not even much of a horror anthology guy, but I absolutely love everything Michael Dougherty does with this movie. And Sam is one of the better horror icons that have come out in the last 20 years. One that's so fun to revisit on Halloween, and if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out this year. Number 54, Qui-Gon from 1964. If you're a fan of film, you're absolutely familiar with Masaki Kobayashi, and this is his seminal 4-part horror anthology. Yes, even though I said I'm not a horror anthology guy, 2 back-to-back here on my list, that features incredibly different segments that are all just so beautifully shot, beautifully constructed. It's eerie and poetic, but can also be absolutely chilling at times. Maybe not exactly the type of movie you think you're going to see on a list like this, but one you should definitely check out if you're interested in Japanese horror. Number 53, Carnival of Souls from 1962. This is one of those movies that has just stuck with me so much over the years. As you can probably tell as a theme on this list, I'm a big fan of movies with a lot of existential dread, and this movie captures that more than most, with some fabulous performances, some great direction. It's definitely one of the most classic films on my list. Number 52, Diabolique from 1955. A psychological thriller in the vein of Alfred Hitchcock with some genuinely shocking twists and some great atmosphere. This is a paranoid movie. Every single scene is filled with that tension and paranoia. That always sticks with me. At number 51, rounding out the first 50 on the list, is In the Mouth of Madness from 1994. John Carpenter's Lovecraftian, trippy film where reality is quite literally crumbling under the weight of fiction. I love mind-bending horror like this, and mixing it with John Carpenter's sensibilities, it's an absolute home run. Entering the top 50 now, and at number 50, The Sixth Sense from 1999. Yes, this one is kind of softly horror, but this is one of those movies that got me interested in film. It's mainstream, sure, but the twists worked so well for me when I was growing up. To me, it's easily M. Night Shyamalan's best movie. Fantastic atmosphere, great storytelling, good characters. It's an emotional movie about loss, connection, understanding, easily in my top 50. At number 49, we have Frankenstein from 1931. The Frankenstein monster has always been my favorite of the classic Universal monsters, and one of the reasons why is Boris Karloff's performance here as Frankenstein. But this movie takes the gothic horror to the next level. The art direction is fantastic, the costuming, James Whale's direction is just perfect, and there's tragedy about this film. It's a tragic film both from the monster's perspective, from the townsfolk's perspective. I love this movie. I've rewatched it quite a few times. Definitely in the top 50. At 48 is One Cut of the Dead from 2017. A joyous, wild movie that's both a love letter to horror, to zombie horror, but especially to filmmaking. It's so smartly written, so funny, very creative. If you have not seen One Cut of the Dead and you're a zombie fan, this is the top of your list. Go watch this movie. At number 47 is Coraline from 2009, a movie that scared me so much as a kid. I'm a big fan of Henry Selick. A Nightmare Before Christmas was one of my childhood favorite movies, and I still absolutely love it. Even though Coraline is a film that's a little bit more aimed at children, I think this movie is really scary for kids. The other mother is absolutely nightmare fuel, and the story touches on one of every child's worst nightmares. Number 46, American Psycho from 2000. Mary Herron's razor-sharp satire of materialism, coupled with what is arguably Christian Bale's best performance, not to mention how iconic this movie is, how many quotable lines there are, and just how much craziness is in this story. Another one of those formative movies when I was getting into horror film, and I still love it to this day.
I just have to kill a lot of people!
Number 45, Nosferatu from 1922. F.W. Murnau's direction is perfect. Max Schreck genuinely looks like a real vampire. Everything about Count Orlok is terrifying, coupled with being one of the better adaptations of Dracula and some of the most perfect horror shots I have ever seen in a movie. I don't care how old it is, this movie is brilliant. Number 44, Tetsuo the Iron Man from 1989. An extremely low-budget body horror film where a man literally becomes metal. This is one of the most unforgettable body horror films I have ever seen. Very punk, very experimental, an avant-garde fever dream for sure, but I loved watching this. Number 43, Day of the Dead from 1985. This is the third zombie movie from George Romero. Definitely the bleakest of his films and maybe his most philosophical. It's got some great zombie violence and one of the zombie subgenre's best characters in Bub the Zombie. 32, Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. One of the best modern Gothic movies. I guess you could say modern. It's been made in the last 30 years. Gary Oldman is fantastic here. Winona Ryder is also very good. And Keanu Reeves is in this movie. It's one of Coppola's most brilliantly designed movies. Production design's absolutely incredible. It's got all of modern Coppola for better or worse, and I really love this film. Number 41, What We Do in the Shadows from 2014. I'm not a big comedy guy, but mockumentary always hits for me. And I think when he's on his game, there aren't too many people funnier than Taika Waititi. Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement direct this movie and write it, and it's just such a perfect awkward roommate story, but the roommates are all vampires. It does a great job spoofing a lot of the vampire tropes while also being hilarious and having some good heartwarming moments. Number 40, Misery from 1990. Rob Reiner really did rule the 80s, and when he decided to dip his toes in horror, he made one of the best horror movies of all time. One of my favorite Stephen King films, just so suspenseful, and Kathy Bates is so good as Annie Wilkes. Great performances, great tension, a hell of a climax, and some brutal sequences. Number 39, Candyman from 1992. I watched this for the first time a few years ago and I was genuinely blown away. Tony Todd is fantastic as the titular character, but this movie has great social commentary mixed with some great psychological horror, and it can be absolutely brutal at times. It seems like something that would be a cheesier 90s movie because of the name, but I'm telling you, this movie is intense, and if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. Number 38, The Omen from 1976. The Omen still stands up as one of the seminal horror movies of all time. It has some of the most chilling death scenes ever, and the religious symbolism really makes this one of the more haunting, apocalyptic style horror movies ever. Number 37, An American Werewolf in London from 1981. The creature effects and makeup just are still fantastic. Add that to some of the best horror comedy you'll ever find, and that makes John Landis's film one of the seminal werewolf movies ever. Number 36, Dracula, also called Horror of Dracula from 1958. This was Christopher Lee's first Dracula film, and I was blown away by how good this is. Of course, you always hear about Bela Lugosi's movie, and that is iconic, but this is a genuinely great Dracula movie. Add in Peter Cushing as Van Helsing, and you get such an excellent classic Gothic film with a lot more violence and terror than the original. Number 35, House from 1977. This is an absolutely unhinged, surreal Japanese horror movie, and one of my favorite haunted house movies of all time. It's got this crazed, joyous madness. Its aesthetic is just completely unforgettable. A movie that when I watched the first time I really enjoyed, but I just kept thinking about it so much. Still one of my favorite horror movies ever. Number 34, Tenebrae from 1982. This is another Dario Argento movie, but this one is intense. This one really keeps you on the edge of your seat. A fantastic whodunit with genuinely impressive kills. Number 33, Possession from 1981. Sam Neill really is so underrated in horror, and most people talk about him in the Mouth of Madness, but I love his performance here in Possession. Couple that with Isabelle Adjani's performance, which is one of the most intense ever captured in a horror movie. You get this crazy psychological drama about a breakup that turns into an absolute feast of cosmic horror. Number 32, Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978. One of my favorite paranoid horror movies. Philip Kaufman's remake just hits on every note. I'm a huge sci-fi guy. It's one of my favorite genres, and so I'm a huge fan of sci-fi horror, and that ending is so haunting. Number 31, this one might be a little more controversial, but it's Robert Eggers' Nosferatu from 2024. Robert Eggers is currently one of my 2 or 3 favorite working directors, and so when I heard he was remaking Nosferatu, I absolutely could not wait to see this. I saw it in IMAX, and the sound is so good. Eggers always has great sound cues in his films, but hearing it in IMAX was fantastic, mixed with some fantastic music. I really did like Bill Skarsgård's performance as Count Orlok. To me, this is a modern vampire classic, and with Eggers making one of my favorite modern gothic horrors, I cannot wait to see what he does with Werewolf next year. Number 30, Deep Red from 1975. Yet another Dario Argento movie. It's giallo perfection, hypnotic, brutal, beautiful, great visuals as always, and to me some of the most iconic kills in any of his movies. Number 29, Peeping Tom from 1960. One of the original slashers, in fact, coming out the same year as Psycho, and this movie was incredibly controversial when it came out, but Michael Powell's direction is so good. Not nearly talked about as much as Psycho, but definitely on that level. It's a fantastic movie. Number 28, Suspiria from 1977, the final Dario Argento movie on my list. As you can tell, I'm a big fan, but this is Argento's masterpiece. As much as I love Deep Red, and Deep Red is honestly so close to Suspiria, that's why I had them only 2 spots separated on this list. I just don't think Argento's direction gets better than the dreamlike atmosphere he creates with Suspiria. It's a full horror sensory experience, and something that's really unlike anything else you'll ever watch. Number 27, Eraserhead from 1977. So I could understand some people arguing this isn't horror, but I would disagree. I mean, this movie is a surrealist nightmare. It's the movie that put David Lynch on the map, and as you can kind of tell by my list, I love hypnotic horror. And watching this movie makes you feel like you're in a trance. It's a short movie that just completely engrosses you. I absolutely love Eraserhead. Number 26, The Bride of Frankenstein from 1935. To me, the best Universal monster movie. It's a perfect sequel, wilder, funnier, more self-aware, but also completely touching. Blending the monster movie with the tragedy, making the monsters the main characters. It's my go-to movie when I want to watch something classic. And it's really hard to see a Frankenstein movie ever topping The Bride of Frankenstein. Number 25, Onibaba from 1964. It's a Japanese film that features 2 women trying to survive wartime famine by murdering people. But eventually they're confronted with true horror as this demon mask enters their lives. Onibaba has great atmosphere, a beautiful black and white movie to look at, and the climax is so good. Number 24, The Fly from 1986. This is my favorite David Cronenberg movie, and Jeff Goldblum's best movie as well. His performance is heartbreaking, and watching him just unravel, mixed with Cronenberg's classic body horror. It's a movie that grosses you out and scares you, yes, but it sticks with you. The characters are really fantastic. Number 23, Evil Dead 2 from 1987. This is my favorite Evil Dead movie and one of my favorite Sam Raimi movies ever. It has all the great horror of the original, but I love Sam Raimi's sense of humor, and the slapstick chaos of this movie is so fun. It's Bruce Campbell's career-defining performance. It made Ash Williams one of the great horror icons. It's a great sequel, it's a great reinvention of the first movie, and I'm always just impressed by the pure energy that Sam Raimi brought to this film. Number 22, Cure from 1997. Kiyoshi Kurosawa is one of the best horror directors in Japan, and Cure is Kurosawa's slow burn psychological masterpiece, in a lot of ways compared to Silence of the Lambs, but with a very different edge. To me, this film is a lot more atmospheric and eerie. There's the psychological ambiguity, which makes this movie unreliable, and it's tense. You don't know what is going to happen in the next scene, and there are very few directors who can deliver that atmosphere like Kiyoshi Kurosawa. Number 21, A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. This is the best of the franchise, and it's just an iconic movie. It obviously introduces Freddy Krueger, but there are very few films that can mix reality like A Nightmare on Elm Street. Combine that psychological horror with some incredible practical effects, all blended into the slasher genre, and you have one of the great horror movies of all time. Number 20, The Wicker Man from 1973. No, not the Nicolas Cage version.
Not the beast! Not the beast!
This is a strange movie, and one that to me didn't quite hit the first time I watched it, but it was one that lingered. It's one that I kept thinking about. The ending was just so horrific, but the way director Robin Hardy decides to mix music and kind of an upbeat feel to the movie, it just creeps you out. It sticks with you, gets under your skin. But that's the whole point of The Wicker Man. It's unsettling, but it's unsettling because it takes so many normal, mundane things and kind of turns them on their head to where when the movie ends and you've got pagan rituals combining with folk songs, it's an odd mix that's completely unforgettable. Number 19, Godzilla from 1954. To me, the original Godzilla is the only one I would truly classify as horror, and because Godzilla gets so far into the direction of camp and action and sci-fi, a lot of people forget how truly terrifying this movie can be. Honda's direction brings a somber and haunting allegory for nuclear devastation. It's such an interesting time capsule to look at this movie. Sure, Godzilla has more spectacle than most horror, but in classic horror sense, it has great social commentary, it's got tragedy, but it can't escape the ghost of the devastation of what man can do. The movie absolutely echoes that the entire runtime. Number 18, The Witch from 2015. Like The Wicker Man, to me, The Witch is another one that when I first watched it, I couldn't quite say it scared me, but then it stuck with me. It gets under your skin. The last 15-20 minutes of The Witch, when the slow burn comes to a head and just unfolds into this nightmare, everything builds up to one big moment, and Anya Taylor-Joy absolutely shines in that moment. She steals the show. The whole family is fantastic, but Robert Eggers' direction, coupled with her performance, makes The Witch so chilling. In a similar vibe, number 17, Rosemary's Baby from 1968. Another slow burn psychological horror movie, but this movie is directed to perfection. Couple that with Mia Farrow's performance, her paranoia, the way she's just falling apart. She becomes completely isolated, unable to trust pretty much anybody. And yet another movie that when the credits roll, you can't stop thinking about it. Number 16, Hereditary from 2018. At times, I've made the argument that Hereditary is the scariest horror movie I have ever seen. It is completely unrelenting. Devastating, brutal violence mixed with creepy, eerie atmosphere and images that stick with you and get under your skin. Coupling that with the great performances, Toni Collette, Alex Wolff, it's a movie I'm sure I will never forget, even if it's one that I don't necessarily love to revisit. Number 15, Psycho from 1960. It redefined American horror on every level. It's got characters with genuine flaws and such an eerie, untrusting atmosphere. It creeps you out from start to finish. There's iconic scenes galore in this movie, and to me, one of the greatest final shots of all time. Anthony Perkins is so good in this movie, and the way Norman Bates just slowly unfolds throughout the film, one of the more complete examinations of insanity we've ever seen in a movie. Number 14, Dawn of the Dead from 1978. This is my favorite zombie movie, and it is George Romero's masterpiece. As always, he has great social satire, setting the movie in a shopping mall, this time with some genuinely good humor as well. Every Dead movie continues to be a pioneer for the makeup effects department, but this one also has great characters, one of my favorite horror settings, and is just so much fun while also leaving you with something to think about as the credits roll. Number 13, Black Christmas from 1974. To me, another slasher classic that I feel like people don't talk about nearly as much. Bob Clark made two of the great Christmas movies of all time between Black Christmas and A Christmas Story. Yes, completely different genres. But this is another movie with just perfect atmosphere, so much dread. Seeing things through the killer's eyes obviously influenced later slashers to come, and the fact you never see the slasher's face, yet you see something like his eye. It's just so so creepy. The phone calls, the incoherent rambling and ranting, everything about the killer is top tier slasher tension. You combine all that with good characters dealing with real problems, and Clark does a great job of making you question everything. Number 12, Perfect Blue from 1997. This is Satoshi Kon's masterpiece, another movie just dripping with psychological horror. It's an anime film about a pop idol trying to reinvent herself as an actress, but her sense of self completely fractures under media scrutiny and an apparent stalker. Kon does a great job of using anime to blend reality, creating such delusions and disturbing imagery. As a psychological horror aficionado, there are very few films that do it better than Perfect Blue. Number 11, Jaws from 1975. Another movie that, like Godzilla, some people want to say is not horror. Steven Spielberg crafts unbelievable tension and atmosphere in this movie. Plus, it's got one of the greatest scores of all time with John Williams' iconic score. Jaws is easily one of the most suspenseful movies of all time. On pretty much every level, it's fantastic. And like Black Christmas in a way, Jaws pulling back on not showing the shark makes every single time he shows up that much more impactful. Number 10, Halloween from 1978. Halloween took everything that was great about slashers prior to 78, gave them even more edge, and made them even more iconic. Halloween would not be as great as it is without Michael Myers. The combination of the mask, the way he moves, the way he stalks, plus the complete auteur stamp that's on this movie from John Carpenter, the simplicity mixed with the relentless pacing and his incredible score, topping that off with Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode, who's one of the great final girls of all time. It's a movie that's as effective as it is iconic, and it also ranks this high because it's just so much fun to rewatch. Number 9, The Cremator from 1969. George Hurst's The Cremator is one of the most haunting films I have ever seen. This is one of the last movies on the list some of you will have never heard of, but I urge you to give this a shot. It's an incomparable amalgamation of some of the sharpest editing and some of the most suffocating cinematography I have ever seen. Going back to films as trance-like, The Cremator is absolutely engrossing. Its technical brilliance gives way to one of the most surreal and terrifying explorations of characters' obsessions, and that obsession is amplified to the highest degree because of the unimaginable horrors of its real-life implications. A lot of the horror in this movie is assumed more so than seen, but this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Number 8, The Thing from 1982. To me, this is John Carpenter's best movie. As relentless as Halloween is, nothing captures the paranoia and isolation of The Thing. It has some of the greatest practical effects of all time, combined with Carpenter's signature practical gore, some great performances including Kurt Russell's, and it blends genres so well. Great horror, great paranoia thriller, great sci-fi. It's just to me one of the great movies of all time. The Thing is easily in my top 10. Number 7, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. I know I'm one of the few that thinks this movie is better than Halloween and A Nightmare on Elm Street, but I just love what Tobe Hooper does with this movie. Talk about relentless. This movie is unbelievably relentless. It starts so gritty and grainy and disturbing. This is just kind of a gross movie. It doesn't feel good watching this, which is exactly why it works. When Leatherface appears for the first time, it's shocking. It's got that classic 70s slow build tension, but when things go down, it's so chaotic. Whether it's Sally being chased by Leatherface to the point where she meets the father, and then after that, everything goes to a head for what feels like an eternity of torture. Very few movies have made you feel the terror that a character in the movie is feeling like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It gets under your skin, it's completely atmospheric. This is haunting, disturbing chaos. Coming in at number 6 is Scream from 1996. This is my favorite slasher of all time. I don't necessarily think this is better than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween, or even Black Christmas for that matter, but I just love Scream. It's such a celebration of horror and film in general. Wes Craven's Metascript is one of the greats of all time. It has some great scares, some great whodunit moments. The twists and turns really do surprise you. One of the greatest cold opens to a movie ever, and it's genuinely funny while also being genuinely scary. And I know I have a few movies on my list that are like that, but I don't think any of them do it better than Scream. Coming in at number 5, and this one might be a little controversial, The Lighthouse from 2019. So like I said, Robert Eggers is one of my favorite working directors today, and I can understand if some people say The Lighthouse isn't horror, but I would ask, what is it then? Because it's got all the hallmarks of a psychological horror. Robert Pattinson just descends into madness, and Willem Dafoe himself is a haunting figure. It's absolutely hypnotic, it's claustrophobic, it's hilarious at times. To me, it's isolation horror, it's paranoia horror. It's an encapsulation of losing your grip on sanity, shooting it in 4:3 with a brilliant black and white aesthetic. Pretty much every single thing Eggers does in this movie, I absolutely love. The monologue from Willem Dafoe when he places a curse on Robert Pattinson because he doesn't like his cooking.
Let Neptune strike ye dead, Winslow!
It's a movie that's so hard to describe, but I absolutely love it. At number 4, we have The Silence of the Lambs from 1991. Yes, another one that is definitely in the psychological thriller genre as well, but this is a horror movie. This is absolutely a horror movie. Everything Hannibal Lecter does in this movie is horrific. The escape scene is a chilling, gross sequence. Couple that with Buffalo Bill and you've got a truly terrifying horror movie. And the performances here from Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster are all-timers, but the movie gets under your skin. It's an exploration of monstrosity, the different types of monsters out there. To me, it's another one of the great movies of all time, and easily in my top 5. Coming in at number 3 is The Exorcist from 1973. I genuinely think this might be the most complete horror movie of all time. It's got such great visuals, amazing practical effects, mixed with a genuinely good story and deeply horrifying moments. One of the reasons this movie works so well is because it's got great, flawed characters. It's got an amazing score as well, but ultimately it's a story about a battle for your faith. And that comes from multiple different perspectives, whether it's Father Karras or Ellen Bernstein's character Chris. It's a riveting movie, it's a deep movie, it's a movie that makes you feel like you actually got something out of it from a character and story perspective. And to me, I think it is the most complete horror movie of all time. Coming in at number 2 is Alien from 1979. This has been one of my probably top 20-25 favorite movies of all time since I first watched it. It's a perfect combination of sci-fi and horror. So many of my favorite horror movies are from the 70s, but I just loved how 70s horror is filled with slow burn movies that create such incredible dread. All the great 70s horror movies have that fear of the inevitable, and Alien is just like that. You don't see the xenomorph for a while, or you just see bits and pieces. Some of the most iconic sci-fi horror moments ever. The chestburster scene is just one of the greats. I love dread in horror movies. I love when tension builds, and pretty much no movie builds tension like Ridley Scott's Alien. But the only horror movie for me that passes it is my number 1, which is The Shining from 1980. To some, a very conventional pick. To others, they go with more traditional style slasher or demonic horror movies. But as I've said many times in this list, I love psychological horror, and nothing does it better than The Shining. The Overlook Hotel is a brilliant location. Stanley Kubrick is easily a top 5 director of all time, if not the greatest director of all time, and the way he captures a space here, there's no movie that makes its location feel more alive, more sinister, than The Shining. Mix that up with Jack Nicholson's performance as Jack Torrance. He becomes a genuinely horrific figure. The way Kubrick lays out the plot and lets certain moments unfold slowly and meticulously. And Shelley Duvall, who we all know was mistreated on the set, but Kubrick gets such a great, frantic, scared, unnerved performance out of her. To me, this movie is just perfect. Every frame is meticulous, every sound so intentional. You never know what's going to be around the next corner. It's an all-time masterpiece, one of my top 10 movies ever, and it's easily my #1 horror movie of all time. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, make sure you check out my Halloween rankings over here. I've done a lot of other horror videos on the channel, including my ranking of the Chucky movies, as well as the Friday the 13th movies, and a tier list where I ranked all Friday the 13th, Halloween, and A Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Make sure you check out my horror playlist. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all next time.